She was an English CEO, wealthy, fearless, and untouchable. But power means nothing when you're lying in the rain, bleeding, and whispering, "Please, don't hurt me." Then came Marcus, a black single father holding his daughter's hand. What he did next would shock everyone and change her life forever. Stay till the end, and don't forget to subscribe for stories that move your soul. The rain had a rhythm that night, steady, cold, and unending. London shimmered beneath storm clouds, its glass towers glowing like ghosts. Inside one of those towers, Evelyn Hart stood before her window, an empire reflected in her eyes. She was the youngest female CEO in her company's history, the kind of woman newspapers called untouchable. Her words could move markets. Her name opened doors. Yet, when the office lights dimmed and silence returned, loneliness filled the space her success could never reach. That night, she left the office later than usual, her phone buzzing with reminders of meetings, deals, and deadlines. But she didn't care. For the first time in years, Evelyn turned off her phone. The rain hit harder as she drove through the narrow streets. The city blurred, lights melting into shadows. Her thoughts ran faster than the wheels. How did I get here? How did power become a prison? A sharp bend. Headlights from the opposite lane. She swerved. The world tilted. Metal screamed, glass shattered, and everything went dark. When Evelyn opened her eyes, the smell of smoke filled her lungs. Her leg throbbed with pain. She tried to push the door open, but it was jammed. Rain poured through the cracked window, mixing with blood on her hands. In the distance, she heard faint footsteps and laughter, rough, uncertain. Panic rushed through her veins. "Please," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Don't hurt me. I can't move." The footsteps stopped. Then came another voice, calm, deep, and steady. "Hey, it's okay. You're safe. I've got you." Through the curtain of rain, a man appeared. He was tall, his hoodie soaked through, and beside him stood a little girl clutching a small pink umbrella. Her eyes widened. "Daddy, she's hurt." The man, Marcus, knelt beside the wreck. His hands were strong but gentle as he pried open the twisted door. Evelyn winced as pain surged through her leg. "Try not to move," he said softly. "We'll get you out, all right?" With one firm pull, the door gave way. He lifted her carefully, wrapping his coat around her trembling shoulders. The little girl, Amara, held the umbrella over Evelyn's face, even as the rain soaked her shoes. They carried her to the curb. Marcus spoke the whole time, his voice calm, grounding her panic. "Breathe. You're doing great. Help's coming." Evelyn looked up at him. A man who clearly didn't have much yet gave everything in that moment. She couldn't remember the last time anyone had cared without expecting something in return. When the ambulance finally arrived, she caught his name. "Marcus," she whispered. "Thank you. You saved me?" He smiled faintly. "Just did what anyone should." But deep inside, Evelyn knew not everyone would have. As the paramedics lifted her into the ambulance, Amara waved, rain dripping from her little curls. Evelyn tried to smile back, her eyes stinging with tears she didn't understand. As the doors closed, she looked out one last time at the man and his daughter standing in the storm. They looked small against the city lights, but somehow they seemed stronger than anyone she'd ever met. And that night, for the first time, the woman who had everything realized what she was missing: humanity. A sharp light cut through the darkness. Evelyn blinked, squinting at the sterile ceiling above her. The smell of disinfectant filled her lungs and her leg felt heavy, wrapped in a cast. Machines beeped softly beside her bed. She wasn't in her office or her car anymore. She was in the hospital, and for the first time in years, she wasn't in control. A nurse entered with a gentle smile. "Good morning, Ms. Hart. How are you feeling?" Evelyn's throat was dry. "Like I've been hit by a train," the nurse chuckled softly. "You had quite an accident. But someone called it in quickly. You're lucky. If that man hadn't found you when he did..." Evelyn's eyes flickered open wider. "The man? Who was he?" The nurse paused, checking her chart. "Marcus, I think that was his name. He and his little girl stayed with you until the ambulance came. He refused to leave until he knew you were safe." Evelyn fell silent. In her world, people helped because it benefited them. Loyalty was currency, compassion was weakness. But Marcus, a stranger with nothing to gain, had given her more care than her own team ever had. That thought haunted her. Days passed. Her assistant visited once, bringing flowers and paperwork, but their conversation was empty, just numbers and meetings, no warmth, no sincerity. Every night, Evelyn stared at the rain outside her hospital window. She replayed the crash, the fear, the voice in the storm. "Hey, it's okay. I've got you." Her chest tightened. She wanted to thank him properly, to see the man who, without hesitation, had carried her from darkness into safety. On the 5th day, she asked the nurse, "Do you know how I can reach him?" The nurse smiled faintly. He didn't leave a number, just said, "Tell her she'll walk again." Something in those words struck her heart like lightning, simple, humble, and filled with belief. 2 weeks later, Evelyn was discharged. She returned to her penthouse, all glass, all silence. The city stretched beneath her like a kingdom. But it no longer felt like hers. She stood by the window, crutch under one arm, watching the people below, workers, parents, children, moving through life without her walls of privilege. For the first time, she wanted to see them, not just overlook them. That night, she found Marcus's name through the ambulance records she requested. It led her to a small neighborhood on the city's outskirts. Old bricks, worn roads, but a quiet warmth in the air. She hesitated before knocking on the faded blue door. It opened to reveal the same little girl from that night, Amara, her smile bright enough to warm the whole street. "Hi," the child said cheerfully. "You're the lady Daddy helped." Before Evelyn could reply, Marcus appeared behind her, wiping his hands on a towel. He looked surprised, then smiled politely. "Ms. Hart, you made it." Evelyn nodded, her voice trembling slightly. "I wanted to thank you." "Properly," Marcus shrugged. "You don't need to." "You're okay, that's enough." But Evelyn shook her head. "No, it's not. You helped me when you didn't have to. You changed something in me." For a moment, silence filled the doorway. Only the soft sound of Amara humming with her doll. Marcus smiled faintly. Sometimes all it takes is one moment of care to remind us what matters. Evelyn looked at him, eyes wet. "Then maybe I've been chasing the wrong things all along." He didn't respond, just offered her a seat inside. And for the first time in her life, Evelyn Hart, the woman who once ruled boardrooms, sat in a humble home filled with laughter, warmth, and the scent of hope. The house was small, 2 rooms. Faded wallpaper, a leaky roof, but it felt alive. Laughter echoed from the kitchen. The smell of fresh bread filled the air, and on the old wooden table sat a cracked photo frame, Marcus holding Amara as a baby, both smiling wide despite the struggle captured in the background. Evelyn stood awkwardly by the door, her crutch tapping the floor. She'd never been in a home like this, not since childhood. No glass walls, no marble floors. Yet something about it felt warmer than her entire penthouse. "Please," Marcus said, motioning to the chair. "Sit." Amara made tea. Amara appeared with 2 chipped mugs, proud as if she were serving royalty. "Be careful, it's hot," she warned gently. Evelyn took the cup with both hands. "Thank you, sweetheart." The girl smiled and hurried back to her coloring book. For a moment, none of them spoke. The rain outside tapped gently against the window, not stormy this time, just calm. Evelyn looked around, absorbing every detail. The worn sofa, the single bookshelf, the laughter of a child who had so little yet, seemed to have everything that mattered. "Marcus," she said finally, "you could have walked away that night. Why didn't you?" He smiled faintly. "Because I've been there, scared, alone, needing someone. The world doesn't give second chances easily. So, I try to be one when I can." His words lingered like music in the air. Evelyn felt something stir deep inside. Guilt, admiration, maybe even gratitude. "You work?" she asked, noticing the uniform hanging by the door. "Yeah," he nodded. "Delivery driver by day, cleaner at night." "It's not much, but it keeps us going." Evelyn blinked. The same world that bent for her barely noticed men like him, the ones who built it from the ground up. She took a deep breath. "You're doing more than just surviving, Marcus. You're raising a miracle." He looked at Amara, his eyes softening. "She's my reason for everything." Evelyn's chest tightened. For years she'd told herself that power was her purpose. But sitting in that small room, watching a father and daughter share laughter over spilled tea, she realized how empty that power truly was. Later, as Marcus walked her to the door, Evelyn turned and said quietly, "Can I come again sometime?" Marcus chuckled. "You? Here? No boardroom, no schedule?" She smiled for the first time in weeks. "Maybe I'm learning to cancel the right meetings," he grinned. "You're welcome any time, Ms. Hart." "Evelyn," she corrected softly. "Just Evelyn." As she stepped outside, the evening sun broke through the clouds. The golden light touched the puddles, making them shimmer like tiny mirrors. Evelyn looked up, letting the warmth hit her face. For the first time since the accident, she didn't feel broken. She felt alive. Over the next few weeks, she visited often. Sometimes she brought groceries, sometimes books for Amara. Other times she brought nothing at all, just herself. They'd talk about life, dreams, struggles. Marcus shared how Amara wanted to be a doctor so she can fix people for free. Evelyn laughed, but inside, those words hit deep, because she realized money can fix almost everything except the human heart. Amara often asked questions Evelyn couldn't answer. Why do grown-ups stop smiling? Why do rich people look sad in big cars? Each time, Evelyn felt a sting, the kind that awakens the soul. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Amara ran up to her with a drawing. It was a picture of Evelyn, Marcus, and Amara, hand in hand, standing under a rainbow. At the bottom, in wobbly letters, it read, "Family means helping." Evelyn's eyes filled. She hugged the little girl tight, whispering, "You're wise beyond your years, Amara." Marcus smiled quietly, watching from the doorway, knowing something was changing in Evelyn's heart. She wasn't just healing her leg anymore. She was healing her heart. The city skyline gleamed from her penthouse window, but Evelyn no longer felt the pull of glass towers and boardroom lights. Every paper she touched, every spreadsheet she opened, suddenly seemed meaningless compared to what she'd seen at Marcus's home. A father's quiet devotion, a child's pure joy, a life built on love rather than power. Yet the corporate world waited for her. Emails stacked like mountains, voice messages demanding attention, her assistant gently reminding her, "Your schedule, your empire." Evelyn's hand hovered over the laptop, but she didn't open a single file. Instead, she stared at the rain-slick streets below, the memory of that stormy night still vivid, Marcus carrying her to safety, Amara offering her the pink umbrella. She realized something terrifying. She could continue as before, safe in her world of control, or she could step into the unknown and finally live. The next morning, she made a choice. Evelyn walked into her office, her cast now replaced by a brace, her crutch left at the door. The employees looked up in surprise. Her reputation preceded her, the untouchable CEO who never faltered. Today, though, she didn't care. "Good morning," she said firmly, her voice steady but warmer than usual. Heads nodded, but whispers rippled through the room. She took a deep breath. "I've returned not to resume business as usual. I've returned to correct it," gasps echoed in the glass and steel room. The board chairman raised an eyebrow. "Correct it?" he asked. "Yes," Evelyn replied. "We focus too much on profits, acquisitions, and appearances, but our power doesn't matter unless it serves people. Starting today, we're launching a new initiative, one that invests directly in communities, families, and lives that truly need support." The murmurs grew louder, some skeptical, some curious. Evelyn didn't waver. She thought of Marcus, who worked tirelessly to provide for Amara, who never asked for recognition or reward. He had shown her what real strength looked like, and now she would bring that vision to life on a scale she had never dared. That evening, Evelyn called Marcus. She hesitated, unsure of how to explain her sudden involvement. "Marcus," she began, voice tentative, "I want to do something. Not just for me, but for you, Amara, and families like yours. I want to help. Will you let me?" There was a pause, then a soft chuckle. "Evelyn, we've got what we need, but if it comes from your heart, I think it'll be worth it." Her heart lifted. That one phrase, "if it comes from your heart," reminded her that true change didn't need pomp or power, just sincerity. The next weeks blurred in a flurry of meetings, planning, and quiet preparation. Evelyn worked alongside Marcus and Amara, visiting neighborhoods, listening to families, and understanding their struggles firsthand. She learned what patience really meant, how to see without judgment, how to offer help without expecting anything in return. One afternoon, Amara tugged at her hand. Evelyn, look. These are the houses we're helping fix." Evelyn smiled, seeing homes painted bright, small gardens planted, and children laughing freely in yards that had once been abandoned. Marcus stood beside her, pride in his eyes. "You did this, not me. You chose to see the world differently." Evelyn felt a lump in her throat. She realized she had spent decades chasing wealth, titles, and applause. But none of it had moved her soul like this, seeing lives transform because someone had chosen to care. As the sun set, painting the sky in gold and rose, Evelyn looked at Marcus and Amara, then at the neighborhood she had helped empower. She felt something she hadn't felt in years, belonging, and she knew this was only the beginning. Evelyn's phone vibrated relentlessly on her modest kitchen table. Her pulse quickened as she saw the name flashing on the screen, Julian Ward, her former fiancé, the CFO, the man who had tried to control her life, her career, her very identity. Her hand hovered over the phone. Memories of that night, the betrayal, the pain, the desperate escape, surged back like a storm. She remembered the cold pavement, the sharp rain, her ankle twisted and throbbing, and the voice that saved her. Marcus. She took a deep breath. Marcus and Amara were in the next room, laughing over spilled crayons. She couldn't let this moment of power disrupt the fragile life she had begun to rebuild. Still, curiosity gnawed at her. Slowly, she answered, "Evelyn, we need you back." Julian's voice was smooth, practiced, oily. "The board is pushing for a compromise. Your resignation has left a vacuum. The company could falter. You know what's at stake? Millions, legacy, everything you've built. Don't make a mistake." Evelyn's fingers tightened around the phone. "I already made a choice, Julian. I left because I realized I was living someone else's life." "Evelyn, think carefully," he warned, his tone darkening. "You can't just walk away from this. You'll regret it." She hung up. Silence enveloped her. Julian Ward's threats were familiar, like shadows from a past she'd tried to bury. But something inside her had shifted. The fear that once paralyzed her had been replaced by a new courage. The courage Marcus had shown, the courage she had discovered within herself. That night, she sat on the balcony with Marcus. The city's lights flickered below, but she felt detached from it all. "They called," she admitted quietly. "Julian, the board. They want me back." Marcus didn't flinch. He simply looked at her, steady and calm. "And what do you want?" Evelyn stared at him, searching her heart. The answer was clearer than ever. "I don't want that life. I don't want to be someone I'm not. I've seen a better way, a life where kindness, care, and choice matter more than power." Marcus nodded. "Then you already know your answer." She closed her eyes, letting the cool night wind brush her face. For years, she had measured success by control and wealth. Now she measured it by love, by safety, by trust, by the laughter of a child who believed in her. The next day, she returned to the office, not the glass tower that had once imprisoned her, but the spaces she had begun to renovate as part of her community project. The walls smelled of paint, the floorboards still uneven. Yet the atmosphere was alive with hope. Employees and volunteers gathered, curious about her presence. Evelyn smiled softly. "I'm not here to take control," she said. "I'm here to listen, to learn, and to act where it truly matters." She walked through the rooms, observing families being supported, children playing safely, and men and women working together toward change. And then she saw a small mural, painted by Amara's tiny hands. 3 figures, a man, a woman, a child, holding hands beneath a rainbow. Beneath it were the words, wobbly but clear, "Kindness changes everything." Evelyn's throat tightened. She realized she wasn't just changing other people's lives, she was changing her own. That evening, Julian's office called again. This time his voice was sharper, insistent. "Evelyn, this is your last warning. Come back or everything you've left behind will crumble. Do you hear me?" Evelyn looked at Marcus and Amara, both watching her silently. She felt the weight of their eyes, of trust, of love she had never known in her corporate life. She picked up the phone. "No," she said firmly. "I'm done. I won't return, and I won't let fear dictate my life anymore. I choose something better, something real." The line went silent. Then disconnected. For the first time in her life, Evelyn felt completely free. The sun rose over the small neighborhood, painting golden streaks across worn rooftops and uneven sidewalks. Evelyn stepped onto the balcony, breathing deeply. For the first time in years, she didn't feel the weight of titles, deadlines, or expectations pressing down on her. Marcus was in the garden below, kneeling beside Amara as she carefully planted marigolds. Their laughter floated upward, light and pure, carrying a sense of home that Evelyn had never experienced in any penthouse or boardroom. She smiled softly. It wasn't wealth or power that made life meaningful. It was connection, care, and the courage to choose love over fear. Evelyn descended the steps quietly, her brace supporting her legs, but no longer limiting her spirit. Marcus looked up and waved, his eyes warm and steady. "Morning," she said, brushing dirt off her hands as she joined them. "Morning, Evelyn," Amara called, holding up a small pot. "This one's for you," the orange marigold. Evelyn knelt beside her, carefully pressing the flower into the soil. She felt a sense of purpose bloom inside her, stronger than any boardroom victory or promotion. Marcus stepped closer, his hand brushing hers. He didn't need words. The quiet understanding between them said everything. Weeks turned into months. Evelyn devoted herself to the community she had once overlooked. She helped rebuild homes, started a small foundation to support struggling families, and mentored children like Amara, teaching them not only academics but empathy, courage, and the value of kindness. The board at her former company reached out repeatedly, offering millions, titles, and power. Each time she politely declined. Those offers no longer held sway over her. Her heart belonged to something greater, a life of impact, love, and authenticity. One evening, as the orange sun dipped below the horizon, Evelyn sat on the porch swing with Marcus. Amara was asleep inside, exhausted from a day of planting and drawing. "You know," Evelyn began softly, "I spent years chasing things I thought would make me happy. Money, power, recognition. But I never truly lived," Marcus nodded. "And now?" "Now," she smiled, leaning her head against his shoulder, "I understand. Life isn't about control. It's about seeing someone, really seeing them, and choosing to stay. Choosing to love. Choosing to make a difference." He squeezed her hand gently. "You've already changed more lives than most people could in a lifetime. And you've saved me too, in ways you might not even realize." Evelyn's eyes glistened. She realized he was right. He had saved her that night, not just from danger, but from the emptiness of a life without connection. The next morning, Evelyn, Marcus, and Amara planted the first seeds in a new garden behind the small community center they had helped restore. The soil was rich, the air crisp, and the colors of hope stretched across every corner. Amara held Evelyn's hand, her tiny fingers clutching the soil-covered ones. "I drew us," she said, showing a new picture, 3 figures, a man, a woman, and a little girl standing together under a bright rainbow, flowers blooming at their feet. Evelyn knelt, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "This is perfect, Amara, just like our family." Marcus watched, pride shining in his eyes. He pulled Evelyn close, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "Family isn't always born," he said softly. "Sometimes it's built, one act of love at a time." That evening, Evelyn looked out over the neighborhood she had helped transform. The laughter of children, the warmth of families, and the joy in Marcus and Amara's eyes filled her with a peace she had never known. She had left behind titles, empires, and expectations, and gained something far greater, a life chosen, a heart transformed, and love freely given and received. She whispered into the twilight, "I finally understand. This is enough. This is everything." And as the stars began to sparkle above, Evelyn knew that her journey wasn't about running from the past or climbing higher. It was about planting roots, nurturing life, and creating a legacy of kindness that would outlast any empire. The world outside her small home would never be the same, because she had chosen to see, to care and to love, and that, she realized, was the truest power of all. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe for more stories that inspire, uplift, and remind us of the power of kindness. Hit the like button and share the story, because everyone deserves to be seen, loved, and chosen.